Like you can make the breakfast and pack the lunches and get everybody dressed and soothe the baby and get on through your work day, right? Get home at night, clean up the messes, do with the extracurricular activities, and then still lie in bed at night thinking, I should have been more patient. Did I spend enough time with my kids? Did I make my baby do enough tummy time today? I should have maybe handled that tantrum better this afternoon. That feeling, that's mom guilt. And the reason why it sounds familiar to you is because it's something that we all experience to some extent, right? That's why I thought it was really important to talk about this today and to walk you through a few steps that have helped me understand where that guilt comes from and then how to start releasing it. Not overnight, not perfectly, but practically and with some real perspective. Because I think once you start to name it, once you learn to question it, and once you realize what your kids actually need from you, then you're able to reframe that inner dialogue that you hear so often. And then you can start to let go of that guilt. And then you start to show up in a way that feels lighter and more grounded, and you feel more like yourself again. So if you're carrying mom guilt, even just a little, stick with me and let's walk through this together. Step 1 is naming the guilt and understanding the triggers. Let's start just by calling it exactly what it is, okay? Mom guilt is this nagging feeling, that little voice that creeps in when you start judging yourself. Maybe for not meeting the expectations you've placed on yourself. And you often do this without even realizing it. And here's the interesting thing, okay? This shows up differently for every single mom. I recently asked moms in a private mom group that I have to share when they feel that feeling of guilt creep up the most. And the responses were very honest and were very interesting. So there were different categories of moms. For example, for moms who work outside of the home, many said that this feeling of guilt hits the hardest when work keeps them from being present with their kids. So for example, if they miss like a school event, right? Or maybe they're not getting quality time with their kids after a long work day. There's that pressure to juggle both career and family. And I can relate to this one big time because you want to succeed at both, but you can sometimes feel like you're succeeding at neither. And then there's a category of stay-at-home moms. And a lot of them say that they feel guilty for not getting enough done around the house, right? Even though they're home most of the time or most of the day. But they feel that there's this unspoken pressure to always be productive. And when you're not productive, that feeling of guilt kicks in. Then there's a category of moms with toddlers, and they happen to have mentioned screen time very, very often actually. So the constant second guessing, are my kids watching too much TV? Should I be engaging them more? And then there's a category of moms on maternity leave, which I am part of as well. And it's often comparison. It's seeing another mom online, maybe doing sensory bins, outdoor adventures, and tummy time sessions. And then you're wondering, am I doing enough with my baby? No matter your season, that guilt tends to say the same thing. I could have done more. I should have done more. But here's what I want you to remember. Okay, and try to hold on to it as we keep going. That voice is not an indication that you're failing, okay? It's actually proof that you care very deeply. And it's proof that you want to give your best. But you've also set yourself up with expectations that might not match the reality of what you can give right now. And this is the important thing. So instead of letting that guilt take the wheel, the first step is just to notice it, to name it, and then to understand what's triggering it. Because once you can see it for what it is, you can then start to shift the way that you respond to it. And that's where real change begins. All right, so step 2 is question the perfect mom ideal. All right. Now that you've kind of gotten a hang of spotting the guilt and you know how to do it, dig a little deeper into where it actually comes from. Now, most of us weren't given a clear and healthy blueprint of what it means to be a good mom. If we did, it would make things so much easier. But instead, what we've done is we've absorbed this impossible ideal. You know, the mom who's always calm, always engaged, perfectly managing everything. Does it sound familiar? And here's the thing, when we hold ourselves up against these picture perfect ideals, it's no wonder we feel guilty. You know, missing any part of that ideal image just feels like you're failing at something, right? But I want you to challenge that. Ask yourself, who told me this is what good enough looks like? And ask yourself this, is this picture even realistic for me right now in my life, right now in this season of my life? And if the answer is no, then it's time to let it go. All right? Start small. Maybe today you decide, look, I'm not going to beat myself up for not doing crafts with my kids. Instead, I am proud I got dinner on the table. Even if it's just craft dinner, mac and cheese, you know? You're practicing permission here. You're practicing permission to give permission to yourself to be human, permission to set boundaries, and permission to show up imperfectly, just as you are. Because the truth is, there's no perfect mom, okay? There's just you. There's you, and you're doing your best in your own unique way. So as the guilt, starts creeping in and you feel it creeping in, remind yourself, those expectations, they're not rules carved in stone. They're just ideas that we've formed. And guess what? We can change them anytime. Step 3 is responding to real life moments with self-compassion. Look, understanding where guilt comes from is huge, but now let's zoom in on what it looks like when it actually happens in real life, okay? Last week, I shared a video, I shared a moment about a major mom guilt moment that I had after yelling at my 5-year-old for refusing to put her shoes on, okay? It was an example of how that guilt arises. So what happened was I snapped and then I raised my voice. And the moment those words came out, the guilt flooded in, right? Why couldn't she just stay calm? She's just a kid. It wasn't fair to her, right? All of these thoughts. And in that moment, it felt like I failed. Like I felt like a total failure. And let's be honest, these moments feel awful, right? But instead of beating ourselves up, try this instead, right? Check in with yourself and ask, was I overstimulated at the moment? Was I tired or just plain exhausted? And usually the answer is yes. And then when things calm down, consider how you want to respond next time. And if you do raise your voice, don't let the guilt eat you up. Use that moment as a chance to model repair. Say something like, I'm sorry I raised my voice. I was feeling tired and overwhelmed and exhausted. That alone teaches your kids how to handle tough emotions with kindness, even when things don't go perfectly. And a little guilt can actually be useful, a little bit of it. It can nudge us to do better next time. But shaming yourself, that's the voice that says you are the problem. That's never okay. So just remember this. Normal moms have moments like these every single day. I have moments like these every single day. What makes the difference is how you handle them. And it's with kindness towards yourself and your kids. And the goal isn't perfection, but getting better at catching yourself and responding with patience and self-compassion. Step 4 is focusing on connection, not perfection. So when you notice that guilt starts creeping up and whispering to you that, you didn't do enough, you weren't present enough, you didn't handle something perfectly, pause just for a second and just zoom out, okay? Just take a look at the big picture. Because here's the beautiful truth. Your kids are not keeping score. They're not tracking how many crafts you did, how many extracurriculars you were able to shove into your week, how many perfectly balanced meals you've prepped, or whether your house was spotless. What they'll actually remember, what actually shapes them, is how it felt to be with you and how it felt to be loved by you, how you comforted them when they were upset, the way that you looked at them with softness if they needed connection, even the way that you said, I'm sorry, after a tough moment. That's the stuff that sticks. So when guilt wants you to measure your worth by what you didn't do, I want you to flip that question, okay? Flip the script a little bit. So instead of asking, what did I miss? Ask, what did I give, right? Today, maybe you gave your energy, your attention, and your care, even if it wasn't perfect. But maybe you were utterly exhausted and you still showed up with love. That counts more than you think. And if that inner voice is full of shoulds, like I should have done more, I should have been more patient, take a breath and just rewire that thinking. And instead ask yourself, did I help my child feel safe, seen, and loved today? And if the answer is yes, even in a messy, imperfect way, then you're doing exactly what matters most. Release the rest. This shift in perspective isn't always easy, but it's so freeing once you do it. It helps you focus on what's real right in front of you, the love and the connection, rather than feeling like you're not doing enough. Remember what my daughter is waking up. So I have somebody joining me right now because she woke up. Anyway, here's a powerful thing to keep in mind when guilt starts weighing in on you, okay? Your kids are watching you And not just what you do, but how you do it. They're learning from your example about what it means to love yourself and others. So ask yourself, what do I want my kids to learn from watching me? Do I want them to believe that love means being perfect all the time, maybe overwhelming yourself or burning yourself out? Or do I want them to see what it really looks like to be human, to make mistakes, take breaks, say sorry, and keep trying? When you take a breath before reacting or say, look, I'm sorry I raised my voice. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling frustrated. These are the moments that teach your kids something incredibly valuable, that it's okay to be imperfect. And when you show them how to be kind to yourself, even when things are hard, right? And we have hard days, you're helping them build resilience and self-compassion. And these are the skills that will serve them their whole entire lives, right? And this image that you paint for your kids, the way that you treat yourself, the way how kind you are to yourself, this is going to be the blueprint that your kids will carry forward. Step 6 is a new way to talk to yourself, all right? So let's finish with something simple but powerful that you can start even implementing today. And that's this. So when guilt tries to sneak in, when you start replaying the day and focusing on what you didn't do, try flipping the script a little bit. So tonight before you go to sleep, say this to yourself. I am doing the best I can with what I have today. I care deeply, and that is enough. I'm not perfect, but I am present. My kids don't need a perfect mom. They just need me. And that version of you, she's more than enough. And as you keep practicing this new way of talking to yourself, the guilt will lose its power, and you'll find more peace and more confidence and more joy in this journey of motherhood. Finally, if this message resonated with you today, I invite you to just take a moment right now or later to pause, okay? Maybe write down one thing you did well today, no matter how small. Celebrate that. And if you know another mom who may be carrying a feeling of guilt or is feeling overwhelmed, please consider sharing this with her, because sometimes just knowing that we're not alone makes all the difference. I wish you the most beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.